Another day, another massive fine for some global bank.
Yeah. Seems like it never ends, right?
This time it's money laundering.
Oh, really?
It really makes you wonder, like, who is watching the store?
Who is keeping these institutions in line?
Yeah, from going completely off the rails.
Well, that's where compliance officers come in,
Right, the compliance officers.
working tirelessly behind the scenes.
I've always been curious about those folks.
Yeah.
What do they actually do?
Well, they're the guardians of integrity, let's say, in the financial world.
Okay, guardians of integrity. I like that.
They're responsible for making sure that their institutions follow the rules.
Okay, so a lot of rules to keep track of.
A complex web of laws and regulations.
So they must spend all day reading through all that stuff, right?
Oh, it's much more dynamic than that.
Okay, so what else?
They're constantly evaluating risk
Okay.
and working to mitigate it.
So not just passively reading rules, they're actively out there,
Exactly.
shaping how their institutions operate ethically and responsibly.
Responsibly. Yeah, that's the
It
key.
seems like a pretty demanding job.
It is. It really is. They need a very multifaceted skill set.
I bet.
They're analyzing regulations.
I know.
They're interpreting their practical applications, training colleagues, conducting audits.
Wow, never a dull moment.
Not at all. Not at all.
You gave us a ton of material for this deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
And all these acronyms, GDPR, AML, ACETIA, MiFID II.
The alphabet soup of regulations.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
I have to admit, some of those were new to me.
Yeah. And each one carries a lot of weight for these financial institutions.
I bet.
For example, take GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation.
Yeah, the one from the EU.
Right. A European Union law focused on data protection and privacy.
So that's the one that everyone's talking about.
It's a big one. It has implications for any institution
Okay.
that handles the data of EU residents.
So even if they're not based in the EU?
That's right. Regardless of where the institution itself is based.
Okay, so even a U.S. bank with European customers.
Exactly.
They have to comply.
They have to comply with GDPR.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you even ensure compliance
It's a good question.
with something so sweeping and broad as GDPR?
It's a multi-pronged approach.
Okay, so break it down for us.
First, understanding the regulation itself.
Okay.
What data is covered, what rights individuals have, what obligations fall on institutions.
Okay, so step one, just understanding what it is you're dealing with.
Right. And then translating that into internal policies and procedures.
For your institution.
For the institution, that's right.
Yeah.
Things like data encryption protocols, consent mechanisms, data breach response plans.
Wow, so you have to plan for everything.
You got to plan for everything, and then, of course, you have to train employees on those
Yeah.
policies.
You can have the policies, but...
And then you have to monitor for compliance.
Okay.
Make sure people are actually following those policies.
So just for this one regulation, that's a massive undertaking.
It is a massive undertaking, and that's just one regulation.
Okay, so what about AML?
Ah, yes. Anti-money laundering. These regulations are designed to prevent criminals from disguising illegally obtained funds
Okay.
as legitimate income.
I see.
This involves things like Know Your Customer protocols,
Okay, KYC.
where institutions verify their clients' identities
Right.
and track suspicious transaction patterns.
So it's like detective work in a way,
It is very much like detective work.
looking for those red flags.
Exactly.
I can see how that ties into that recent scandal we were talking about
Yeah.
with the fine for money laundering.
Potentially a strong AML program
Right.
could have prevented that or at least mitigated the damage.
So these compliance programs are really important.
They're essential. They're not just about reacting to scandals. It's about building systems that prevent them from happening in the first place.
It's a very proactive approach.
It has to be.
I guess some people might see compliance as a burden,
I can see that.
but it really is a form of risk management,
It is.
protection for the institution and for their customers.
Absolutely safeguarding reputation, minimizing financial losses, ensuring ethical conduct.
Okay, so we've established that compliance officers, they deal with this massive web of regulations.
They do.
All these acronyms we were struggling to pronounce earlier.
That's right.
But what are some of the day-to-day challenges they face
Yeah.
beyond just like understanding the rules?
Well, let's say you finally mastered a regulation like AXA.
That's the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, right?
You got it, the one that aims to prevent tax evasion
Okay.
by U.S. citizens holding assets abroad.
That's a mouthful.
It is so you've implemented policies, you've trained your team, you're feeling good.
On top of it.
And then suddenly the regulatory landscape shifts.
Oh, no.
New guidance is issued.
Uh-oh.
A court case sets a precedent that changes how FAC is interpreted.
So you're constantly playing catch-up.
You're constantly playing catch-up. It's not just about learning the rules.
Right.
It's about adapting to their constant evolution.
That sounds exhausting.
It can be, and then there's the matter of resources.
Oh, right, money people.
Exactly. Compliance departments are often understaffed and underfunded,
Really?
despite their critical role.
That's surprising. I would think that with the potential for all these fines,
You'd think.
companies would be throwing money at compliance.
It seems logical, right? But unfortunately, compliance is sometimes viewed as a cost center
Oh, I get
rather
it.
than a strategic asset.
So they're trying to do more with less.
They always trying to do more with less.
And on top of that, they have to navigate all this new technology.
Oh, absolutely. The world is changing so fast.
Like fintech.
Yes, fintech is a great example.
Hmm.
These companies are disrupting traditional financial services.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly it's all changing.
And with that disruption comes a whole new set of compliance challenges.
Right, because the rules weren't really designed for these new technologies.
Exactly. So compliance officers have to be very creative and very adaptable.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
So understanding complex regulations, advocating for resources, adapting to new technologies.
It's a balancing act for sure.
What about the people they work with?
Ah, yes, the human element.
Yeah.
I imagine getting everyone on board with compliance
Right.
can be a challenge.
Like herding cats, maybe?
Haha, something like that. Compliance officers need to be great communicators.
Okay.
And collaborators, they need to be able to explain the why behind the rules, not just the what.
Right, so it's not just about, being the compliance police.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about educating and influencing.
It's a very different skill set.
You're right. It's a unique blend of technical expertise and people skills.
They're not just enforcers.
Right.
They're educators and influencers.
That's a great way to put it, and that's becoming increasingly important.
So the role of the compliance officer is becoming more strategic.
Absolutely. They're not just preventing disasters.
Oh.
They're shaping the very culture of their institutions.
Wow, that's a big responsibility.
It is a big responsibility, and it's an exciting direction for the field.
We've talked about challenges.
Yeah.
But what are some of the positive aspects of this job?
Why would someone choose this career path?
Yeah.
I think it boils down to a sense of purpose.
Okay.
Knowing you're playing a vital role in maintaining the integrity and stability of the financial system.
So it's not about the money or the perks.
It can be, but for many people, it's much more than that.
It's about making a difference.
It's about doing the right thing, protecting consumers, ensuring ethical conduct.
That's a powerful motivator.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a career path with a lot of potential.
Okay, how so?
The demand for skilled compliance professionals is constantly growing,
That makes sense.
especially with the increasing complexity of regulations and the rise of new technologies.
So job security.
Job security opportunities for advancement.
Good to know. Good to know.
And there's also the intellectual stimulation that comes with staying ahead of the curve.
Right, because it's always changing.
Always changing, always challenging.
So a career that's both challenging and intellectually engaging.
It is a rare combination.
So it sounds like it attracts a certain type of person.
It does. People who are driven by a desire to make a difference,
People who want to do the right thing.
even when it's difficult.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So while compliance might not have the glitz and glamour of some other roles in finance, it's a field with depth,
It is.
impact,
Mm.
and a real sense of purpose.
A real sense of purpose. You said it perfectly.
For a long time, compliance was seen as this necessary evil,
Oh, yeah. The dreaded compliance department.
just a bunch of box checking and paperwork.
Right. Just trying to slow everyone down.
But it sounds like that perception is starting to change.
It is. It really is.
So how are companies moving beyond this check-the-box mentality to
Yeah.
something more strategic and proactive?
Well, there's a growing recognition that compliance can be much more than just a cost center.
Yeah.
It can actually be a strategic asset that helps companies build trust, mitigate risk,
Okay.
and even drive innovation.
Wait, so compliance can actually help companies be more successful?
You heard that right.
Yeah.
It might seem counterintuitive,
Yeah, it does.
but it's true. When compliance is done well, it can actually enhance a company's reputation
Okay.
and make it more attractive to customers, investors, and partners.
So it's not just about avoiding bad PR.
Right.
It's about actively building a positive reputation
It is about building trust.
for ethical and responsible behavior.
That's the key.
Okay, what about risk mitigation?
Well, that's where compliance really shines.
How, sir?
By identifying and addressing potential risks early on, compliance officers can help companies avoid costly fines, lawsuits, and reputational damage.
Right,
So you're not just cleaning up messes,
right.
you're preventing them from happening in the first place.
And what about this idea that compliance can drive innovation?
Yeah, that one's a little harder to wrap your head around.
It is. I always thought of compliance as a constraint
I can understand that.
on creativity.
Right. But think about it this way. If companies build compliance into their products and services from the very beginning,
Okay.
they can avoid costly redesigns and delays down the road.
So it's about baking compliance into the DNA of the company.
Exactly, from day one. And when compliance becomes a core part of the company culture,
Okay.
it can actually foster a more innovative and ethical environment overall.
So it's not just about following the rules. It's about creating a culture where doing the right thing is just the way business is done.
That's the goal. That's where the real power of compliance lies.
It's a very holistic approach.
It is. It's not just about avoiding penalties. It's about building trust, mitigating risk, and ultimately creating a more sustainable and successful business.
That's a pretty compelling case for compliance.
It is.
So it sounds like we're moving away from that old check-the-box mentality to something much more strategic and proactive.
We are. And one of the biggest drivers of this shift is the rise of RegTech.
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 What's that?
It stands for regulatory technology,
Okay.
and it refers to the use of technology to streamline and automate compliance functions.
So basically using technology to make compliance easier and more efficient. It's about time.
It's a game changer for compliance officers.
How so?
Instead of being bogged down in manual tasks and paperwork,
Right.
they can now leverage technology to automate things like transaction monitoring, risk assessments, and regulatory reporting.
Oh, wow. So free up their time.
Exactly. Free up their time to focus on the more strategic aspects of their role.
So what are some concrete examples of RegTech in action?
Well, one of the most common applications is automated transaction monitoring.
Okay.
Instead of having humans manually review every single transaction for suspicious activity.
Right. Which would take forever.
It would take forever. Banks can now use AI-powered software
Oh,
to flag potential issues in real time.
so much more efficient.
Much more efficient. What else?
Yeah, what?
Another example is AI-driven risk assessments.
Okay.
These tools can analyze vast amounts of data to identify potential risks and vulnerabilities
Okay.
that humans might miss.
So it's like having a superpowered compliance officer constantly scanning the horizon.
Scanning the horizon, looking for potential problems.
What about blockchain?
Ah, yes. Blockchain technology is also playing a role.
I was wondering about that.
It can be used for transparent record keeping.
Okay.
So blockchain can help create an immutable audit trail
Okay.
that makes it easier to track transactions and ensure compliance with anti-money laundering and other regulations.
So it's all about using technology to make compliance more efficient, effective, and dare I say, even a little bit exciting.
A little bit exciting.
Yeah.
You could say that RegTech is really revolutionizing the way compliance is done.
Yeah.
It's opening up all sorts of new possibilities.
For these compliance officers to be more strategic
Exactly.
and impactful.
That's the goal.
This is fascinating.
It is.
But with technology evolving so rapidly, I imagine the compliance landscape is going to look very different in the years to come.
Oh, absolutely. It's a constantly evolving field
So what are some of the trends you're seeing?
that are shaping the future of compliance.
Yeah, what's on the horizon?
Well, one of the biggest trends is the growing focus on ESG.
ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors.
You got it.
Right. So it's
Right.
not just about complying with financial regulations anymore.
It's about more than that.
It's about making sure companies are operating in a way that's sustainable and ethical.
That's right. Investors, consumers, and regulators are all increasingly demanding
Okay.
that companies demonstrate their commitment to ESG principles.
So it's going to be a much bigger part of compliance going forward
Absolutely, compliance officers are going to play a key role.
in helping companies meet those expectations.
Exactly.
So it's about going beyond the letter of the law
Yes.
and embracing a more holistic view of compliance.
A more holistic view. Absolutely.
Okay, what else?
Another major trend is the increasing importance of data privacy.
Right, with all the data breaches these days.
Exactly. With data breaches becoming more common and regulations like GDPR tightening the rules around data protection.
Yeah, GDPR is a big one.
It is compliance officers are going to have their work cut out for them.
In ensuring that companies are handling sensitive data responsibly,
They are. It's a huge responsibility.
data privacy is definitely top of mind for a lot of people these days.
It is.
What else is coming down the pike?
Well, artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly prevalent in financial services.
Right, AI is everywhere these days.
It is. And that's creating a whole new set of compliance challenges.
How so?
We need to make sure that AI systems are being used ethically and responsibly,
Okay.
and that they're not being used to discriminate against certain groups of people
Well,
or perpetuate existing biases.
right. So it's not just about the technology itself. It's
Exactly.
about the ethics of how that technology is being used.
That's where compliance comes in.
So compliance officers need to be thinking about that.
They need to understand the potential risks and implications of AI
Okay.
and develop policies and procedures to mitigate those risks.
It's a constantly evolving field.
It is.
New challenges emerging all the time.
All the time.
But that also means it's never boring, right?
The future of compliance is full of both challenges and opportunities.
It sounds that way.
It's going to be an exciting ride for those who are up for the task.
This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has been.
I feel like I've learned so much about the world of compliance in just this short amount of time.
I'm glad to hear that.
But before we wrap things up, I want to get your take on something.
Okay.
You've painted this vivid picture of the evolving landscape of compliance
Yeah.
and this crucial role that compliance officers play
It's a vital role.
in shaping a more ethical and sustainable financial system.
It is.
If you had to pick one thing that you think is the most important takeaway for our listener, what would it be?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I know there's a lot to choose from.
There is. But I think the most important thing for people to understand is that compliance is not just about following the rules.
Oh,
It's about doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. It's about building trust, mitigating risk, and creating a more sustainable and ethical financial system for everyone.
that's a powerful statement.
I believe it's true.
It really elevates the role of compliance beyond just the technical aspects.
It does. It's about values. It's about integrity.
And I think that sense of purpose is what draws many people to this field,
I think you're right.
people who want to make a difference.
Exactly.
That makes sense. So let's say our listener is intrigued by all this and
Yeah.
thinking, hey, maybe a career in compliance is for me.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Where do they even begin?
Yeah, where do you start with something like this?
Well, I'd say start with curiosity.
Okay.
Dive into the different areas of compliance.
Okay.
Anti-money laundering data, privacy, cybersecurity, ESG.
Wow. There's lots.
There's a lot. See what sparks your interest.
Okay.
There's a wealth of information available online, industry publications,
Right.
even podcasts like this one.
Of course, we're a great resource.
No.
But beyond just reading, what about connecting with people in the field?
Networking is huge in compliance.
Okay, so reach out to people.
Yeah, reach out to compliance professionals on LinkedIn, attend industry events, seek out informational interviews.
Okay, so learn from those who are already doing the job.
Exactly. Hearing firsthand experiences can be invaluable.
What about formal education?
Yeah.
Is a law degree a prerequisite for a compliance career?
It's not a prerequisite.
Okay.
While a law degree can certainly be an asset,
Okay.
it's not the only path.
So there are other options.
There are specialized master's programs in compliance,
Okay.
as well as certifications focused on specific areas like AML or data privacy.
Oh, that's interesting.
These can demonstrate your expertise and commitment to the field.
So multiple pathways for different interests and backgrounds.
Exactly.
I like that. But let's get practical for a moment.
Okay.
What are some specific skills that someone should develop if they're serious about a compliance career?
Well, analytical thinking is paramount.
Okay.
You'll be dissecting complex regulations
Right.
and applying them to real-world scenarios.
So you need to be able to think critically.
You do. And strong communication skills are also essential.
Right. You're working with a lot of different people.
You'll need to be able to explain those regulations to colleagues, advocate for resources,
Yeah.
and build relationships across the organization.
So it's a blend of technical expertise, communication prowess, and a healthy dose of people skills.
You got it.
And I imagine adaptability is important too.
Oh, absolutely. The compliance landscape is constantly evolving.
Right. New regulations, new
It's
technologies.
everything.
So being comfortable with change and eager to learn is crucial.
It's essential.
It sounds like a challenging but rewarding path,
It is.
especially for those who thrive in a dynamic environment.
Absolutely.
And with the increasing focus on ethics, sustainability, and technology and finance,
Yeah.
the role of the compliance officer is only going to become more vital.
I agree. I think it's a field with a bright future.
We spent a lot of time today discussing this evolution of compliance from a reactive check-the-box function to this more strategic and proactive force within financial institutions.
It's been quite a journey.
Can you give us some concrete examples of what this strategic compliance looks like in practice?
Sure, let's take ESG as an example.
Okay. Yes.
Instead of viewing ESG compliance solely as a matter of meeting regulatory requirements,
Okay.
Companies are starting to integrate ESG principles into their core business strategy.
Oh, so it's becoming part of their DNA.
It is. It's not just an afterthought.
So what would that look like in practice?
Well, it might involve developing sustainable investment products,
Okay.
incorporating environmental considerations into their supply chains,
Right.
or promoting diversity and inclusion within their workforce.
So compliance becomes a driver of positive change,
Ex-
not just a constraint.
That's the shift we're seeing.
And it can have a real impact on a company's bottom line.
It can. Consumers are increasingly favoring companies that demonstrate a commitment to ESG principles.
Oh, interesting.
Investors are more likely to invest in companies with strong ESG performance. And talented individuals are drawn to companies that align with their values.
It seems like a win-win situation.
It really is. Companies that embrace ESG principles not only mitigate risk,
Right.
but also enhance their reputation and attract investors and top talent.
That's fascinating. Can you give us another example
Sure.
of strategic compliance in action?
Maybe in a different area.
Yeah.
Let's consider data privacy.
Okay. Data privacy, a hot topic these days.
It is. A company might go beyond simply complying with regulations like GDPR
Okay.
and proactively build strong data privacy protections into their products and services from the outset.
So they're not just protecting themselves from fines.
Right.
They're building trust with their customers by demonstrating a commitment to safeguarding their data.
Exactly. In today's data-driven world, privacy is paramount.
It is.
Companies that prioritize data privacy are seen as more trustworthy and responsible.
It sounds like the strategic approach to compliance is not only ethically sound,
Yeah.
but also makes good business sense.
It does. And it's becoming increasingly clear that companies that fail to embrace this shift will be left behind.
So compliance is no longer a back office function.
It's not.
It's a key driver of strategy, reputation, and even innovation
You said it perfectly. It's about building a culture of ethics and integrity.
that permeates every aspect of the business.
Exactly.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation about the evolving world of compliance.
It has been fun.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with something to ponder.
Okay.
We've talked about the challenges, the opportunities, the importance of ethics and integrity.
Mm-hmm.
If you could offer one piece of advice to someone considering a career in compliance, what would it be?
I would say, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay,
Compliance is a complex and nuanced field,
right.
and there's always more to learn. Seek out mentors, engage in industry discussions,
Okay.
and stay curious.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop learning.
That's it. That's the key.
Sounds like a recipe for success in any field,
It is.
but especially in the dynamic world of compliance.
Absolutely.
I agree. And remember,
Yeah,
compliance is about more than just following rules.
it is.
It's about doing the right thing,
Even when it's hard.
building trust, mitigating risk, and contributing to a more ethical and sustainable financial system.
For everyone.
That's a powerful message. So as we conclude our deep dive into the world of compliance officers,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for sharing your expertise and insights.
My pleasure.
This has been a truly enlightening conversation.
It has been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's amazing how compliance has gone from,
Like a back office function.
yeah, kind of like a necessary evil to now like a driver of
Positive change.
innovation.
Yeah, a strategic function.
It really is a remarkable transformation.
It is, and I think it's just the beginning.
Yeah, you really get that sense that things are changing quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
As financial services continue to evolve, so too will the role of the compliance officer.
Yeah, they'll have to keep up.
You've touched on some of the trends that are shaping the future of compliance,
Mm-hmm.
like ESG, data privacy, AI governance.
All big ones.
But if you had to gaze into your crystal ball,
Oh, boy.
what do you see as the biggest challenge or the biggest opportunity
Yeah.
for compliance officers in the years to come?
I think the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity will be navigating the pace of technological change.
Right, because it's just accelerating.
It's accelerating so rapidly. We're on the cusp of a new era in finance.
Driven by.
AI, blockchain, the Internet of Things.
So compliance officers will need to become fluent.
With
in-
not just regulations, but technology.
Yeah, because if you don't understand the technology.
How can you regulate it?
Exactly.
They'll need to understand how these technologies work,
Okay.
the potential pitfalls, how to develop compliance frameworks that can keep pace with innovation.
So it's a lot more than just understanding the law. It's
Uh,
understanding the technology itself.
Yeah, it's a daunting task,
It sounds like it.
but it's also an incredibly exciting one.
Yeah, because you're on the cutting edge.
You are.
It sounds like the compliance officers of the future.
Yeah.
They'll need to be part technologist,
Part ethicist.
part futurist.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
They'll be at the forefront of ensuring that these powerful technologies
Right.
are used ethically, responsibly, and for the benefit of society as a whole.
I can see how that would be both challenging
Mm-hmm.
and incredibly rewarding.
It is.
To be shaping the future of finance,
Yeah.
ensuring its integrity and sustainability.
It's a mission worth pursuing.
It is.
And I believe the best and brightest minds will be drawn to this field,
I think so too.
driven by the opportunity to make a real difference.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
I hope so.
We've explored this complex world of compliance,
Yeah, we've gone deep.
debunked some common misconceptions,
Hopefully.
and shed light on this crucial role that compliance officers play in shaping a more ethical and sustainable financial system.
It's been a great conversation.
So to our listener, if you're intrigued by the challenges and opportunities that we've discussed today,
Yeah.
if you're passionate about ethics, and if you're excited by the prospect of being at the forefront of innovation, then a career in compliance might just be the perfect fit for you.
It might be.
It's a demanding field,
It is.
but also a deeply fulfilling one.
You get to make a difference.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of compliance officers.
Okay.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey and come away with a newfound appreciation for the unsung heroes of the financial world.
The guardians of integrity.
Until next time, stay curious and thanks for diving in with us.